What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Welcome to another episode of Steelers War Room on Steelers Touch and Under. We are talking all things Steelers linebacker. After Mike Tomlin's press conference, he did kind of say the comment of they're not really going to be looking outside. Now, that made a lot of sense if you have listened or haven't had a chance to listen to this Mad Monday show that Mark and I did this week. We had tried to look in a space of 10 minutes at who really was free and available. And there's not a lot of guys out there that, are really that worthy of bringing in. Particularly if it's going to take away development reps from Mark Robinson and, Nick Herbig as well. So not surprising here that Mike Tomlin said they're not really looking externally. Obviously, Neal's injury could be an issue into that plan because of what Neal can do in the box, that being Keanu Neal. But he did reference one player that we haven't heard too much about, apart from him being out of the practice squad, even though they elevated Tariq Carpenter. He did talk about Mykal Walker. And he talked about them quite extensively, actually, throughout questions regarding the linebackers. So that's why it's time to do is, who is Mykal Walker? Who is he? What has he done? What could we expect out of him? So Mykal Walker is out of Fresno State. He played 2 years there before he went into the draft, had a combined 182 tackles there, 22.5 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks, 1 interception, 10 pass defense. He had 1 TD, and he forced 3 fumbles. And recovered 3 fumbles as well, actually. So I think there are a couple of the same. But obviously comes in with a bit of pedigree's wrong word, but definitely performance. Usually a lot of rookies, the 3 Ps of, pedigree, potential, and performance. There's decent performance there. But since he's been in the league and he got drafted by the Atlanta Falcons in 2020, Mike Tomlin referenced in the press conference that he had over 100 tackles last year. He had 107, 56 solo, 51 combined. He had 4 tackles for a loss, and he's only had 5 throughout his career so far. He had 4 quarterback hits as well, and he's had 1 sack last year as well. So he had a pretty good year. But this is where I think the difference is in terms of how he went getting a starting job. Also, the Atlanta defense obviously not very good last year overall. It's coverage. So if you look at, and this is actually really cool with the Pro Football References advanced stats. If you look at actually how receivers and tight ends and running backs have gone against him when they're getting thrown the football. He was targeted 14 times in his rookie year in the 16 games he played. He started 6, and he allowed 12 completions for 86, almost 86%. He then was targeted 16 times for 12 completions, 75% in 2021. Now, obviously, he had a much bigger role with 107 tackles in 2022, and he allowed 83% completion rate, 44 completions on 53 yards for 374 yards. 54 completions on 53 targets, I should say. So really, yards per target of 7.1, quarterback rating allowed of 80. So look, it's not like he's necessarily letting in touchdowns, but obviously its pass coverage is probably not fully his thing. Now, that can be a scheme thing. That can be the guys he has around him. But that could be one of the reasons why people found him available is the pass coverage, particularly because he is a 6 foot or 6'2", 230 pound. We'll just confirm that. Yeah, 6'3", 230 pound linebacker. Runs a 4.65, which is really good. But he ran in the 40-yard at the draft. The one thing I like about Mykal Walker, which I feel the Steelers probably like a lot as well, is the missed tackle number. 5.3 missed tackles when you are making 107 tackles is a pretty high number. That a pretty high number in terms of how many tackles you're making and not missing. Now, if we did a quick comparison to Quan, he's missing 10% of his tackles in all but every year. In fact, this year already he's missed 12.8% of his tackles. So that gives you an idea of the benefit that Mykal brings in. He's an assured tackler. But as we said, on the coverage side, they could be found wanting. So again, for example, if you're looking at him as a like for like replacement for Quan, I think Quan's 6'2". Pro Football Reference's height and weight can sometimes be a little bit off, but he's 6'2" and 230. Yeah, so yeah, he's 6'1", 227 according to this. So Mykal Walker is a bit bigger in size, a bit more rangy, right? But Quan Alexander, if we look at here at the completion percentage, he's allowed, not since his rookie year, has he allowed more than 76%. That was this year. This year, before he got injured, 76.9%. Last year, 70%. The year before that, 72.5%. So Mykal Walker being that solution, we've just got to remember that the pass coverage side might be challenged. But that is where it works. Because if you think about Keanu Neal and what he can do in the box, the linchpin to it goes back to what we said on our Monday show, and we did a much deeper analysis. So it is worthy to go back and listen to that if you didn't. But that comes down to, is Minkah Fitzpatrick going to be healthy? Because if he's not healthy, Keanu has to go back deeper into the backfield, deeper into the secondary, and therefore that takes Neal out as a regular solution in the box. Now, obviously, they can go play Pat P there with Kazi, which is what they've been doing a bit of. I still think this goes back to what I've said for over 12 months now, is the Steelers need a really good young safety. They need to get one in the draft or get another good veteran, strong safety to make this team really rock solid. Like a Mark Barron right now, obviously he's older. I think he's now fully retired as well. But a Mark Barron type would have been really helpful. But there's just not a lot of guys out there when you actually look at the free agent market as well, that are still really within the mix, that are still healthy. I mean, the awful thing overall about the linebackers situation as well is that it's happened in the 2 weeks after trade deadline closed. At least couldn't have happened a week earlier if we could have found a solution to this. But yeah, just Steel fans, I just want to give you a snapshot of who Mykal Walker was from a statistical perspective, give you a bit of an idea of where the strengths are, where they're not. Obviously, a tackler, someone that can force some fumbles, someone that can get to the quarterback at times as well, and a short tackler. But pass coverage is definitely where things open up a little bit as a problem. But if the Steelers can manage that and play schematics, that'll be really helpful. But the other thing I really like is an assured tackler going into 4 AFC North matchups. That's really helpful. A long, tall, ranging guy, 6'3", 230 pounds. That's nothing to slide at. Runs a 4.65. Played 72% of the defensive snaps last year for Atlanta. This guy can play in the National Football League. He's not your average practice squad guy. And that is why Mike Tomlin said things like, we haven't necessarily had a bunch of developmental guys on the practice squad. We've got guys, veterans that can come in and play. Thank God they brought him in October, which is when they brought him in on October 30th after he was released by the Vegas Raiders. They're an absolute schmozzle, so it doesn't really matter what they thought of him. The Steelers must have liked him. I think there's some traits and some proven performance here that could be helpful for this team. Is he going to be Cole Holcomb? No. Is he necessarily fully going to deliver what Quan Alexander is? Maybe not. Maybe he's a short tackle in the run game, which is complementary to E-Rob. Maybe he's not. It's not as beneficial in the pass coverage game. But we can only see, and the Steelers, the best thing is that the Steelers play will elevate the guys around him. It generally does, particularly with the guys that we've got in this squad, the veterans, etc. So with that, that's going to wrap up today's Steelers War Room. Hope you have a great day. As always, go Steelers.